Hello, Battalion. Good evening. My club bat. Hello, Spooky Battalion. Here we are.
What are we doing? I don't even know. Like, you just like, here I am, just like, what? I supposed to perform now. I'm like, what the hell? What? I have to process in my brain.
Okay, after we filmed the rental spooky review, we had a conversation, and it was in regards to the ending. And it was really an interesting conversation because I had my idea of what the ending meant, and we started to talk about it, and we kind of got into a little debate about what the ending meant, and I think we came together at the end on it, right?
It can be confusing. That was the thing. Like,
yeah,
but you caught on to it.
Yeah, I understood it right away.
Solid, and I was like, wait, is it this or was it this?
So what we're going to do really quickly before you go into that, I just want to let you know that this video is a spoiler, and this video is going to be a brief video, but it's us just talking about the actual ending and explaining the ending, because I think a lot of people may have missed it because it goes so fast and so much was happening. So I want to talk about what the ending actually was from our perspective. Now, you might have a different perspective, and if you do, I want you to leave it in the comments. Okay, so in the ending, when all is said and done and the people have been like basically murdered and all this crazy stuff has happened, we're left with someone coming in who we are assuming is the brother of the guy who set up all the cameras in the house, the actual super host. We're assuming that it's the brother of the super host that comes back in. But in reality, they give us time in the end to actually show us how it all started. And this is the process of how what this guy actually does, that it wasn't just something that happened in this house. It's something that this person sets up over and over and over again. And you made a good point about Airbnbs. Do you remember what you said to me?
Yeah, what makes you think twice about when you're renting it, if you're renting in the Airbnb stay?
Yeah, because so here's what happened in the ending, and this is the way that it was shown, and my interpretation of what that meant. You see a guy come back in. He's basically killed everybody. After the super host is dead, everything starts going wrong, and the people get picked off one by one. Okay. Then you see him in the house, and he starts collecting all the technology. You see the breakdown of taking the technology, like the cameras, and where the router was, which was, they were trying to find the router and they never could. You see him calmly and collectively going back through the house and taking everything down. Then you see another frame where this same person, although we don't get to see his face, you see him, knocking on a door, and someone opens the door and hands him the keys and goes in. And you see him sitting in another rental. And then you see him start to do the same thing, which is to set up all the technology in the house, the cameras, the router, all of that.
They show all the little things laid out on the table. Like, he has it all laid out. It's like, okay, now let's take care of. Very organized
meticulously.
Too. Everything was properly spaced too. You notice that, like when his cameras.
Yeah, it was very organized, which shows like a
very strategic,
which you see in a lot of psychopaths, right?
Yeah,
like
it's
in
like Dexter or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of psychopaths are very meticulous and obsessive compulsive, right? Like they have to have everything. Right, they have to have everything organized. You get to see with.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
No, I wasn't going to say.
Okay, you see this guy without ever seeing his face. You see what he's doing. He broke down everything from the last place. He goes into a new rental. He gets keys from a new superhost, right? Mm-hmm. He goes into the rental. He just kind of checks out the place and is very calm. And then you see him with all his technology, and he starts in all over again, putting the technology up And then they don't show that he leaves, but then you see the next family, you know, or we assume it's the next family, but who knows? He could have been watching multiple other families before he decided. We don't know that. But then he goes in. We know what happened in the last one, so we already know what's going to happen in this one. And then all of a sudden, you just see him walk into a room with someone who's asleep in bed, and he goes right for the person, and then it blacks out.
Because that's how it ends.
Right.
It's like it goes over again. It's a cycle.
Right.
So it tells you, I'm like, oh, this is some serial killer stuff.
Right. So the confusion though was really like, okay, well, wait, was he the brother? Was he of the other guy? How, you know, what was the confusion thing that you were questioning?
I think I got, it made me stop and think, because there's the moment in the end when all of it's said and done, that he reveals, you don't see the face, but you see the hair in the back when the person takes off their disguise, right? So that, I got stuck going, wait, that hair looks familiar, or is that someone else that we probably just didn't pay attention to in the movie? So I got caught up thinking about where the ending and the beginning, if they somehow revealed who the killer was, or if they were around him the whole time. But then I realized, you know, maybe that's not it. So it can make you, that's how I was thinking, like, was it someone that already knew them at first, but then once it went through the whole process at the end and all that, and then when you were explaining, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense too.
Right. So the other confusion that I was referring to, so there was that, because you talked about that, but the other thing was, wait, well, how would it work with him and the keys and the super host and all that stuff? And I was like, no. So what you have to understand is that this guy was never connected to the owners of the rental, and that was the thing, like, well, how are they?
Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I got confused because I thought that person like rented
from the killer.
No. Yeah, from the killer, which it wasn't. It was. I was like, yeah. I was
right.
Like,
so that's the confusing part, is that
it made my brain go. Ooh.
That this guy never had anything to do with any of the rentals, any of the super hosts, and so we the whole time were assuming that he was the brother of the super host of the first one. So at the ending, you're trying to put all together, like, wait a minute, so who was he? Well, realistically,
he was just renting.
He's a random guy who goes in and rents Airbnbs. When he goes in to rent these Airbnbs, he checks out the entire place. He hooks up all the technology, hides the router, you know, puts his cameras where he can be a perv and watch whatever he wants, and he can put it in places where he's going to hear intimate conversations, places where people could hide in the shadows and discuss in groups, do things, right? So he could get kind of dirt on these people. Yeah. And it kind of, I think, for him,
sabotaging too.
He likes to watch the sabotage as he sabotages people, and then he has justification for killing them because he finds them as horrible people. Now, in the new family, there was family, and I don't know that there was anything that we got that was negative. So I don't think he's discerning in that way. I think if he wants to kill somebody, he just does it. But he justifies it easier with people. He sees all these secrets and this betrayals and dirty deeds and stuff that people are doing in private behind closed doors. Right. And that he never has anything to do with the superhost. And that's the part where you were saying it makes you think twice about renting an Airbnb. I mean, I know for us, anytime we go, we look at stuff. Like, we look for cameras.
I think it's smart
in
to do that.
The obvious areas, right? Like, look in the shower. Look in vents, look in showers, you know, look in any place where it's like an intimate spot. You wouldn't want somebody having a camera, because a pervy type of person is going to put it in the bathroom where you're naked, or going to the bathroom, or, you know, they're gonna try and get into those more intimate areas, but then check everything when you go into an Airbnb, because you don't know. And it also made me realize too how freaking vulnerable we are, because these other people that we don't know, that are the hosts, we don't know them. We don't know if they have criminal records, or if they killed the last family and they're just there with the keys waiting for you. Like, you don't really, this just goes to show how vulnerable we really are, and how much
we trust in life
and the civility,
living.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's a civility amongst human beings.
Yeah, there's
where we agree.
Agreement. There's a general agreement. Like, we understand these things.
We understand that most people are law abiding, most people are decent people, you know, that they're trustworthy, right? But then, of course, we live in a society where there's people that are not that way. But it just goes to show you how freaking vulnerable we really are in life. And I think that was also the bigger message there. We are not as safe as we think we are.
Right. And the other thing that I caught on during this particular moment, thinking about the killer, like, if it justifying that all people do bad things to each other, like families are not perfect and all that, which we all know no one's perfect. So it almost seems like a demented way of justifying to possibly kill people. So they record them to kind of okay, that's a bad parent to her son, you know, very last scene, the very last before it ends, right? So I was like thinking, it just made me think, like, okay, maybe that's another angle of the killer to justify by recording and kind of taking their time to observe what they do, and then find those little things that's gonna trigger it. Like, you
even when it's almost nothing there, right? Like, he needs to find one thing that he can get irate or think it's not good, and then justify himself.
Yeah, there's many angles.
Other people.
Yeah, it's like makes you think, okay.
Which no one, like, if we're being honest, I loved CSI when CSI came out. I was addicted to that. I still love CSI, and one of the things that Grissom always said, was it Grissom or the redhead gal? No, it was the redhead gal, and I cannot right now remember her name. I love her, though. But I remember her telling someone, another mother, who was not a bad person, right? But she said, nobody looks good under the magnifying glass. And that's the truth, because we all lose our temper. We all can be sometimes. We all could be, you know, certain there, you can always pick out something that someone has done. And if somebody is a psychopath, and they're looking for a reason to kill someone, they're always going to find something that they could pick out that they don't like to justify that. So and the other thing that I just thought of this right now, is they never show us his face. And I think that, well, obviously that is very purposeful to not show us his face, because the implication is it could be anyone. It could be anyone.
Exactly.
It could be anyone. And clearly it's a guy who was, you know, probably definitely worked in tech. And it would be someone you wouldn't expect. He would be a professional because he was clean.
Yeah, his hair had a style, like,
he looked, I think I actually said that guy looks like he works in the Silicon Valley, right? Like, he looked like people I worked with at Adobe. He could look like someone just like that who does tech for a living, and you could see,
or anybody.
But literally, I think that was the implication at the very end, is that we don't see his face because it literally could be anybody, and that's why I think everybody should just really be careful. Check your Airbnbs, you know, have fun, still go out there, but be careful, and just don't give people your trust, because at the end of the story, you do not know if you can trust somebody or not, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Okay, do you have anything else to add?
No, maybe one thing.
Okay.
I think that's what the movie was meant to do. The director, or how they directed it and guided to, how do you keep it in your mind, the movie, like it stays with you to make you think about it, right? Like Halloween, or
it's almost cliffhanger, right?
Yeah, it's like you're always gonna,
oh my God, what did it mean? Oh my God.
When you go to a camping place, what is the movie you think about?
Friday the 13th.
Yes, if you're feeling like nightmares or something, what is the movie we think about?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Or what is, it's Halloween time and people in masks who, of course.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Right.
Fred Myers, right?
No.
Michael Myers. Michael Myers.
Fred Myers, let's go shopping.
Let's go. Low.
Low.
That's what I meant. Not Fred Myers, but Michael
What
Myers.
do you think about when you think about masks?
Michael Myers.
Of course, Fred Myers.
That was a good
If you
one.
don't know, Fred
Michael
Myers
Myers
is a Pacific Northwest shopping place, kind of like Costco.
That's not Costco. Yeah, it's kind of like Costco.
Yeah, it is.
Or it's like a... Anyways, Michael Myers, right? That's what we think
Michael
about Halloween.
Myers,
Not Fred
yes.
Myers. That's only if you need cheaper avocados or something.
Okay.
Or good what? They have good vegetarian items.
Okay,
anyways, but that's what you think about. So now this movie instilled something that's so in our culture, what we do, what people do, Airbnbs.
Yes.
Timeshare. So now it's like
social commentary,
yes.
like using something that we're all so familiar with
it's
now.
It's a way of...
We trust it.
And now that if you watch that movie, I think all the time now that's going to be something in the back burner all the time.
Yeah.
And that's
meaning what? Checking the Airbnb.
That means that means it leaves it open for part 2, part 3. It does.
Which of course they're not going to do because most. Yeah, and it's also it was also a lower budget movie and stuff like that. And most part 2s people don't typically make a lot of part 2s because they're not successful. And they're a lot of money. Usually the franchises are the things that have huge money backing.
But you could see if that one was more of a blockbuster type of like with.
Yeah, but it's a cliffhanger because it leaves you that. So that is our interpretation of the ending, is that it could be anyone. It had nothing to do with the host or the super host or the brother. In that original rental, they had nothing to do with any of that. It literally came down to a stranger renting prior to the people coming in and setting up cameras and spying on people and watching them, killing all of them, and then going in because he killed all of them. He still had access to the rental. Went in, cleared it up, got rid of the bodies, and then went on to do his next rental, and nobody knew he was ever there. So that is our interpretation of the rental. We really liked it. We hope that you guys go out and watch it if you haven't watched it yet and you're viewing this and doing the cheats first. And until next time, you guys, stay spooky!